Hi everyone, this is take two of my video. I was trying to use this as a tripod and it wasn't working, and then something weird happened and I lost what I was saying. So here we go, this is take two. Clearly not using a tripod today, and this is the sun in my hair, which kind of looks like tiger stripes, which is very appropriate for today. So I wanted to talk about two things today. My Lupron being the most in my face thing. And the other thing is, I've been reading this book, When Bad Things Happen to Good People, from Harold Kushner. Again, I'm not here to promote something, but like if something's working, I definitely would like to share it with you. And I'm not a reader. I try to read. I read books, but it's almost like it's homework. And this, I was tearing up earlier about what I was reading. And I've been tearing up like hardcore for the past, I don't know, 5 days or so probably, really badly, like the 2 days before my Lupron. So I want to mention that, especially for those of you that are going through Lupron injections, and then just share briefly with what I got from what I was reading that was making me get teary-eyed. So the Lupron, I've been on the Lupron for 5 months now, and I started in October, and I was in the middle of a cycle, so I had my period when I had my first injection, and then like a couple of hours after I had the Lupron, my period stopped, and I haven't had a period since then, which is good because that was the whole point of why I needed to be off, or on the Lupron, to like be off ovulating. Not related to the breast, well, it's kind of sort of related to the breast cancer, but more of a uterine issue. And like any middle-aged woman knows, and other people that aren't middle-aged women should appreciate, is that, you know, the female body has a lot of parts, and they are all intertwined in very interesting ways. And especially as you get to be my age, which I'm 50, things just don't work the way they used to. Well, my foobs, like case in point. Anyway, so the Lupron, it's my side effects and how I've been around the time of the Lupron has shifted a lot since I started taking it. And these vlogs are super helpful. I mean, I'm understanding they're helpful for you, that people that are going through all of this. And it's also helpful for me to backtrack and see like what was going on when I had my other injections, because like this last injection, man, I'm still kind of coming off of it because it's only been 2 days since my injection, but like, oh my, I don't think I've ever cried or felt that hopeless. Maybe since last month. I don't know. But yeah, it was hardcore. I just could not, you know, I was journaling about it, and I'm like talking to people and trying to figure out like, why is the world so horrible? Why are all these things happening to me? You know, all the things that were wrong. I couldn't find anything to be grateful for. My journals in the morning are like, list things that are going good. And I'm like, I don't know what's going good, but here's all the things that are not going good. And I can laugh about it now, but holy shit, I wasn't laughing about it then. And, you know, people joke about like PMS and stuff. Like, I can't say it's PMS because I don't M anymore. But man, the cycle just messes you up. So anyway, I always remembered, and I could be wrong because I've obviously been through a lot with medication in the past 6 months. I always thought that like, I had some, like, I remember having some like stabbing pains in my lower abdomen before the Lupron. But I remember like having side effects, like not the day of the Lupron, but the day after, like day 2 and 3 after the Lupron, I would get like not really agitated, more like buzzy, like you can't stop. You're like, bah, you know, foot's tapping a mile an hour. You have like a ridiculous amount of energy. And I remember actually vlogging once when I was walking, and I had to walk it was like in sensory overload basically. And it would last like 2 days and that would go away. So it's like 2 days now past the Lupron. I don't have that at all. But what I do like know now is like like I said, I was so depressed, like hardcore. Nothing is making me change my mind. I had a really good session yesterday with the oncology psychologist who helped me understand like more of the situational things that were causing it too. But I also see that it's a very big impact from the Lupron. I view the Lupron as like, it's just something I have to take to keep my body healthy right now because of stuff that's going on. But for men, Lupron is more often given to men for prostate cancer. So, it'd be interesting to see how it affects men versus like what it does to women. But anyway, so, I was just upset all the time, letting myself cry, even if like I had no idea I was crying. Before, like when I would have those episodes where I'd be in the kitchen, getting a glass of water and just start bawling. And I could at least recognize then that like I'm just crying because like my body is off and I'm just crying to cry. I have nothing to be crying about. This month, I don't know, well, I do know why. There's other things going on in my life that are a lot right now. But I would cry like that, and I would think of all the reasons why I was crying, and all the things like I can't control, and oh my God. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so, but it was awful. It's awful to be in a position like that when like, you know that you normally have your shit together, and then all of a sudden, like life just like slams you, and it's like, here's all the things not to be, like to be overwhelmed and unhappy about and unsatisfied about. And that's not, like I've done a lot of self-development work over the years, and like that's not who I was, and it makes me frustrated then too, that like I used to be like this, and I used to be like that, and that's not who I am right now. Well, maybe right now, but it wasn't who I was yesterday or for the past like couple of days. So anyway, my son was the one who said to me, just wait till you have a Lupron and then it'll make all this stuff go away, because that's what happens before. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't make it go away. He noticed the pattern more than I was, that like every time I go to have my Lupron, I guess I get that sad, at least according to what he sees. And then a couple days after I had the Lupron, it goes away, which is interesting because, I've obviously been vlogging and writing stuff down as to how I think I'm presenting myself, and it's not at all what he's seeing. So I listened to him. He's a bright kid for, his age, and just like grounded, I guess, and observant, and just let it ride out, and and here I am, and I'm feeling like a billion times better. Not that I'm like jumping for joy, I'm not that far into the Lupron thing, but what I will say is like, and the point of why I wanted to get on quick, and I really mean quick because I have to go to the dentist later, which apparently that's the thing too, going to the dentist with implants. I'll get to that hopefully. Like you have to let your dentist know that you have breast implants, which seems totally unrelated, and I still don't understand why, but so yeah, it was funny that he noticed that. So if any of you that are on Lupron and having the same kind of things where you're just seeing like things are awful, things are hopeless, whether it's because of breast cancer or other things that aren't cancerous, but things that aren't going as they should or hope to in your body, and you need to be into Lupron, even if you don't acknowledge it, it puts you in a really dark place. Really dark place. And I haven't been in a dark place like that in a very, very, very long time. So it's hard to see out of that. But my best, parenting advice to you or whatever is like, you just got to write it out, because as part of the cycle and as part of how the Lupron works, it'll go away pretty quickly after all that crazy. Like that crazy could last, that's not a great word, but it could last like a week where you feel like things are horrible. Nothing is going good whatsoever. Oh my God, when I did my weigh-in, I don't know if I went too much into that, but I don't want to give you numbers, but when I went to weigh in when I had my Lupron injection, which I shouldn't have weighed in, it was the mistake of them calling the wrong Jennifer. So stupid. You know, like I weigh too much, but they told me to not worry about losing, you know, the weight, and, you know, my hair. It's just like everything. Find something that's wrong. And that's what I was focusing on. You know, like I started doing Nia. I can't even get through the hour without like having to stop because I can't move my arms the way that I want to. And like, you know, why can't I just play tennis? My ice skates are still sitting there and they're in the box and I want to go ice skating, but I haven't gone ice skating yet because it's like, I don't know, you know, where do I go and who do I ask? And why can't someone just ask me to go ice skating? And I'm reading these books and like, I don't want to read. And like, I wish the pandemic weren't a thing. And oh my God. And then they're going to be lifting the mask mandate in my town, and they're lifting it in the schools, and all that anxiety that, well, now what's going to happen? Am I going to get sick again? And I'm sick of being sick, and all the drama on Facebook. And I could go on. There's bigger things, but I have my boundaries when it comes to these vlogs, believe it or not. Like much bigger things that were causing anxiety for me. But the biggest thing that I want to give, other than myself with these vlogs, as kind of a memory thing of here's what was going on and why, to ground myself too, is for those of you that are going through it, or those of you who know someone who's on Lupron, you know, this is just how it is right now. I have a follow-up next month, right around when actually I haven't scheduled my 6th Lupron yet, but it'll be right around my 6-month point for the Lupron, where I meet with the gynecologist and do an ultrasound, see what's, you know, happening inside and see how it's working. But the Lupron is pretty hardcore. And, you know, I don't get the like fever and chills and all that stuff, but it really meant like the hormones or whatever, because your body, you know, it's forcing your body not to ovulate. It's pushing me into menopause when my body was not ready to be in menopause. And there's side effects to that really screw with your freaking head. And you just have to write it out. You know, you can have 1,000 reasons why things are going wrong, but you just have to write it out because it will stop. And it's like you have to make yourself make it stop. There's a chemical thing with the Lupron that it just ends up stopping. And I'm not at a hard stop now, but I'm at a slow down spot now. And it's funny because I purposely didn't change where I was sitting because of the stripes in my hair, because of the blinds on from the sun blinds, the sun through the blinds, you know what I mean? They look like stripes, like tiger stripes, that I'm like, holy shit, have I earned my friggin' tiger stripes? They say that about like stretch marks from when you're pregnant, that you earned your stripes. I've earned plenty of stripes and learned a lot from the stripes that I've earned. So yeah, that's my biggest takeaway that I want people to get that are on Lupron and going through all this. Again, today's Wednesday. I had the Lupron on Monday, so it's pretty much at this point been 48 hours since the injection. And, you know, I think it's done its job for the month and things are easing up and I'm starting to have a clearer head to think of things. Which leads me to, and like blood pressure. I don't want to forget that part. I mentioned on my last vlog when I went to have the Lupron that my blood pressure was really high. It's still been high. I'm able to get it back down, but it doesn't stay down. So it's not like it's just going to stop. And with my FMD, I get on like kind of red alert when my blood pressure is high. And I was at the point even before where I'm like, I'm doing meditations and I'm like, well, her voice is really, really annoying. I can't calm down to her. And I listen to somebody else and I'm like, he says the same thing every single time. I need to find somebody else to meditate to. Like even meditating is like causing me stress because I don't know who to meditate to. But it's concerning. You know, you see that your blood pressure is high, and if you have FMD, then you really get concerned. And I'm like looking at my pupils, like, are my pupils the same size and whatever? And I also had a whopping headache for almost a week. And headache's also not a good thing when you have FMD. So, you know, I go over and I have my coffee, and the caffeine usually helps with, or the caffeine does help to make the headaches go away. But the problem is then you're having caffeine, which is not good when you have high blood pressure. So what do? So I meditate and I have a cup of coffee. And I get stuff out by logging. I just like vomited out all that was in my head to the psychologist yesterday. And, one thing he let me, he saw an underlying trend with everything else, that it's all about control. And I've let a lot of stuff go. I've learned a ridiculous amount of lessons through life in the past, 7 years. But yeah, being a control freak, it does not work. You can't control stuff. You can't, there's certain things you can control, but there's a lot that you can't. And I said to him, when I really get stressed out and I just want to get up and bolt and take a walk, I feel like that's fight or flight. And I used to be the flight person, and I don't want to do that anymore. And he's like, that's not the flight person because you're leaving to go for a walk. He's like, that's you taking care of yourself, and your body's like, I need input, and I need physical input, and I need to calm down by being around quiet, and all I'm focusing on is walking, and that's it. So I don't see it as fight or flight anymore. I see it like I need to get my butt up and get out and get walking. And fortunately, it's going to start getting warmer out here, so I can do that. So I'm going to switch gears. That's the part about the Lupron. And, my email's always open. People, or if you're on Facebook and that's how you found this, you can message me on Facebook through the invasive ductal carcinoma what page. That's where most people interact with me and say things. So if you have more questions about the Lupron, my experience, whatever, feel free to ask me. I feel like my point with all this stuff is to be there to share with other people what's going on. So briefly, that brings me to this. So this morning, I had physical therapy this morning. That's my workout clothes. I'm doing better. This is still not a good thing, but look how high. Woo! I can go all the way high. I'm doing better. I have to say I'm not doing my exercises at home as much. It seems like it's too much strain. But yesterday I cooked a meal that was probably took me over 2 hours to prep. A lot of cutting. I cut a spaghetti squash in half, a raw one, which is a lot of pressure with a really big knife. And I was not able to do that before. And it was tough. And then you're scraping the seeds out, and then you're cutting up the vegetables and stuff, and then you're stirring stuff when you're cooking it. It's a lot of movement with the arm. But I feel like those were my exercises. So at this point in my shoulder, at least, I feel like my body is saying to me, do more things like you normally would do and see how you're tolerating it. When I start doing exercises at home from PT, it's hurting. And I just stop because I'm not supposed to be doing it if it's hurting. Okay, so what I did was, got my coffee, sat down, started reading a couple pages of this. I'm only up to page 20 or something, or 28. And I was, like I said, I was tearing up when I was reading this, because one thing that I got out of what I read today, and I'm going to get all godlike, so whatever, just letting you know. It's hard for many people to believe in or to have faith in God when really bad things happen to them. When you have disease, well, why do I have this? Is it my fault? If there's a God out there, why would he do that to someone like me? Not to toot my own horn, but I'm a pretty nice person and I do good things. And I know plenty of people that are just assholes. And, not that I'm wishing anyone ill, but I'm why does this have to happen to me and not to other people who are assholes? I don't understand. You could have the biggest dicks go through life and not have any health problems. And I'm how is that fair? And that's what I'm trying to understand by reading this, because I'm not finding it or answers for it other than just saying it is what it is. But that's just not good enough for me right now, which is why I'm going more towards a religious aspect of why, and I'm getting there with this. But what I read today was about like as a parent, and I'm a parent to 2 sons, as a parent, you have to do things. I'm not saying God did this to me, but as a parent, you do things for your kids, for them to learn lessons, even though at the time, it's hard and your kids might be upset with you or sad or whatever. Like if you discipline them, or if, you keep them from doing something or whatever, the grand thing is you're trying to teach them a lesson. And sometimes they learn that lesson because of whatever it is that you've, done as a consequence. And sometimes they don't learn the lesson. And maybe it's not their time to learn the lesson. Maybe it's not their time or maybe they're not going to learn that lesson from you. And it'll pop up later in life from somebody else. But you can do the same thing over and over and over again. And if they're not learning a lesson, this isn't the right time. Or again, like I said, it's not coming from me. It's obviously not going to work. And I almost feel that way about the cancer and the kidney stone and the cavities that I had and all those health things that were going on and COVID. Why? Is there some lesson underneath all of it? And I think there is a lesson, but I don't feel like I was punished in order to learn the lesson. I just feel like my body is giving me this wake-up call, which I feel like I've had enough wake-up calls, but my body is giving me this wake-up call to see things that I just haven't been seeing. And while I don't see it as like, well, God's doing all of this stuff to me as a wake-up call, I look at it more like, my body is a machine and all machines need maintenance. And if you're ignoring the signs, same thing if you're driving a car. If you ignore the signs, shit's still going to happen. And, if it's big shit, then you'll realize down the road that, hey, I should start paying more attention. And that's what I've been doing. I mean, that's one of the lessons that I've learned from all this is like paying attention to my body. And that means mentally too. I have a billion things to be doing for today. But I for myself, to wrap my head around how I've been for the past week and to help other people, like I want to take the time to do my 22-minute and 38-second blog, which will probably go to 30 minutes, easy. So I don't look at it as a punishment. I look at it like I had to do maintenance on this body for whatever reason. And hopefully now with the greater insight that I have, when I notice something not going right, I'll act on it quicker. I don't blame God. I don't blame someone. I found out recently that most breast cancers, they have you do genetic testing and people blame the BRCA gene. But I found out there's actually it's a pretty small percentage of people that get breast cancer because it's genetic. My mom and I both don't have the BRCA gene. And also the large environmental aspect that plays into all of it. I'm not saying there aren't lifestyle things too, but there are pockets in the world where there's more breast cancer or other sicknesses, and there are in other places. Like I grew up on Long Island in New York, and Long Island has, for whatever reason, there's a larger percentage of women that get breast cancer down there. I don't know why. And does it matter that it was during my formative years? I don't know, because I was down there for 20 years. I don't know. But it can't, not looking so much for the blame, but trying to understand going forward, what are the lessons I'm going to be learning from all of this? So the interesting thing was when I was talking about parenting, and it was mentioned in the book too, that you can view God as a parent who is looking out for you, but maybe trying to teach you a lesson. I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean teaching you life lessons that you just weren't seeing before. and having the analogy of like what it's like when you discipline one of your kids. And I don't mean discipline like spanking or something. I just mean like, giving them consequences for something that they did. And especially for people that don't have parents, or I shouldn't say parent, like everyone biologically is parents, but like parental figures that are in your life that, check up on you and have that parenting role with you. If you don't have that, a lot of people look to God as like, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, but like, as being a father or a parent. And it was the first time I thought of, like, when I think of God as a person who's looking over me, nurturing me when it comes to this, I always view God as a male, him. But when I think of someone looking over me to try to teach me a lesson in a loving way, I think of that higher being as a female, which I've never thought of God as being female. That's the first time I ever saw that at all. Mostly I think because women tend to be the nurturers, not always, but tend to be the nurturers when it comes to parenting. So, so it made me less angry, at why did you do this? Not that I think that I did for a short time until a friend kind of changed that mode for me, but not that I think that God did this to me to teach me the lesson to slow down and focus on my body and stop putting other people before me and prioritize myself. Yet those are the lessons that I've learned. So I'm still following this process. I don't know. I'm just going day by day. But the last 5 have been awful. So if there's anything I'm going to leave you with, it doesn't last. It will go away. And it might come back. It will probably, most likely come back in 3.5 weeks. And then again, go away again when I get the next Lupron. And I don't know how long it's going to last. I mean, the process has changed so much. I look at old vlogs and I'm like, wow, that's so not how I am anymore, which is good because it shows progression. But it's just one frickin' hell of a ride. And with all the crazy going on in this world right now with COVID and just, people griping with each other, countries, what's going on right now with Russia and the Ukraine, just negativity and battle and just not good things. And I don't know, as humans going through all the things that life has to throw at you, you do have control over you and your reactions. Even though last week it seemed like I didn't have control over it. What I did have control over is picking up a book to read it, to try to get my mind off things, walking out the door so I can go for a walk. I did have control over that. I also had control over the cookies that I made and ate, which is not helping my weight situation. But then I walk it off when I go leave and take my super long walks. There are things that you have control over. So, yeah, I will share with you, which I'm pretty sure I have before, but I have this kindness rock on my kitchen table that I do look at every morning. And well, you can read it, although I don't think it's backwards. It says, "May every sunrise bring you hope. May every sunset bring you peace." There's always hope and peace to be found. You just have to remember that it's there, and sometimes you just have to wait a little bit longer for it. And that's okay. Have a great day, everyone, and love yourselves and be kind.